be killed and slaughtered and destroyed. And the other point that you made is that I'm trying to attack the Old Testament for its violence. That's not my point. Like, you completely misunderstood my point, David. My point is that how are you criticizing Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran? How are you criticizing us for abiding by this religion when these things are found in the Old Testament, and you don't consider Moses to be an evil person? You're the one who is inconsistent. I don't have a problem with the slavery that would have been practiced according to Mosaic law. I don't have a problem with many of these instances of violence and intolerance. The people who have a problem with it are atheists and liberals, the kinds of people that you are sometimes, fraternizing with on your YouTube channel. They're the ones who will criticize the Old Testament for those kinds of acts of violence and intolerance. I'm not saying that everything that's in the Old Testament is exactly true, because as Muslims we believe in tahrif, basically, that the older revelations have been modified and distorted and corrupted. And by the way, this is the view that is corroborated by Western scholarship. But I'm not going to affirm or deny these things that are attributed to Moses. I'm just saying you explain them. You explain how you consider Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an evil warmonger, bloodthirsty, but Moses, you don't seem to have the same position. As for this idea of the rules of war in the Old Testament were only limited to a certain geographical area or a certain time period, well, the time period is about 1,300 years, because that's the time that the Mosaic law was applicable. Whether it was limited to a geographic location, that's disputed. In fact, if we look at the Hebrew interpreters and the Orthodox Jewish interpreters, rabbinic authorities on the meaning of blotting out the Amalek, they viewed it as a continuous war from generation to generation. And there are many verses in the Old Testament that mention this, to blot out their name, to kill their women, their children, their infants, even their oxen. So this is, according to Jewish authorities, called harem warfare. And it's not something that was limited to just Israel. It could be expanded to other places. And there are examples of discretionary war that we can look at. Numbers within the Old Testament. We can look at Deuteronomy. Many verses that talk about the ability of Israelites and Jews to, according to Mosaic law, attack offensively and to destroy these other religions and these pagan practices, because they are violating Mosaic law.